now we're in the wheat field, and this is our big dramatic second act low point where the characters are going to resolve their problems, and really Kamala is like very much a third wheel in this situation. She's just sort of standing off to the
Yep.
side while Carol and Monica air their grievances. And so Carol explains Supreme Intelligence ruled the Kree for a millennia. The Supreme Intelligence, led them into the war with the Skrulls, and Carol thought the only way to stop it was to destroy it. But all it did was make everything worse.
Because she's a dumb
she
fuck.
believes herself, because she's a fucking idiot. She believes herself responsible for causing the Kree civil war. It's how she got the name the Annihilator. And Carol never wanted Monica to see that version of herself. She thought she could only come home after she fixed the problem. And this is why she never came back to Earth. And that's fucking crap.
It's also a lie.
That's bullshit. And it's not true. So but isn't that incredible? It's like, see, that's why she wasn't there for 30 years. You guys were wondering, like you were wondering with the Eternals why they didn't do anything about Thanos. See, we got a good explanation ourselves. She didn't want to be perceived badly by her adoptive niece. That's why she didn't come back to Earth.
You know that when she was in Tony's funeral, Fury was like, you gonna go see Monica? And she was like,
Nah.
I don't want to be perceived badly by her.
Yeah, I don't want to... because obviously Monica would know about that thing that I did in a different galaxy. It's like, what? I don't... it's absolutely baffling, and I want to have just a slight sliver of sympathy that I think the writer of this was saddled with solving that problem. I don't think they made it up. I think that this was generated across the other Marvel projects where Captain Marvel had abandoned Monica, and you have to make a reason for that. It's like, but why? It reminds me of like, why did Black Widow never acknowledge or do anything with her family? And it's like, well, why have you made me solve that problem? What the fuck? Why have you made this the case?
It's the same with the Skrulls, right? That Carol abandoned the Skrulls, and it's now just a problem that you inherited. But at the same time, while I don't think that there were really any good explanations for her absence, this is a really bad one.
Yeah. It was a lie.
The same way that, well, it was, like the earlier explanation
If
I was
you're gonna
mentioning.
lie, make a better one.
Well, the better one was, I was too busy. I had to deal with things.
At least it was, well, I just had to, when you were there, like I had to stop civil wars and incursions or excursions and attacks and whatnot, and Thanos' army remnants. Like, if you were there, you would understand, if you had to see the suffering, but I had to stop it.
And the point is, that's still not good enough for her not being there for, like, Ultron or Thanos or anything like, well, for Thanos, the Infinity War. But it's something.
You start to pick at it in terms of, like, trying to redraft, and you're like, okay, if she was to say to him, be brutally honest, I don't think you can say she forgot about it, because it wouldn't really make 100% sense. But if she did say, like, you just... You get the back and forth that's simple at first, like I was busy, or I was doing this, or I was fighting that, and it's like, oh, this solving this problem, getting it, and then she can throw back at her like, oh, busy singing and dancing, getting married, busy, and quoting other things she knows from this adventure, and then her just, Captain Marvel being like, you're not my world, you're not everything to me, you don't matter like that much. And then in the background you can have, Miss Marvel, who Captain Marvel is her world, she's inspired entirely by her, like almost exclusively. She can just be like seeing this unfold and be like, oh shit. And then Monica can be like, my mum was my world and you left her. You left me. Like you're the reason you're even where you are. You've always like, it's to do with our family. And it's like, you can't say we don't, even like, are you not human anymore? Like that sort of argument that goes back and forth and back and forth. And this was the time in the timeline where the conversation ends badly. That's what's supposed to happen. That's how stories go. It's supposed to end badly.
Like, this is not a satisfactory answer. Like like you're just shit. Like, because sometimes the terminus of a conversation is just confirmation that the other person is shit.
But instead, the conflict is resolved in about 10 seconds. Monica says,
you have it end with Captain Marvel saying, "I don't need you to." Like, you both fucking suck. Don't use your powers. Let me solve this. Fuck you, basically. And she leaves. That's how that scene's supposed to end. And then you have, like, Fury is probably the one to do it, right? To give Monica, like, what she needs, and then to also give Captain Marvel what she needs. Or someone else, whatever. It's just, and then they team back up, and then the third act happens. That's what happens in Avengers.
Like, it's what happens here, where Monica's just like, oh, you think I cared about that? I just wanted to see my aunt, not Captain Marvel, and then that's it. They're resolved. That's it. They're done.
When Brie Larson starts to smile, I was like, no, seriously?
Yeah,
We've resolved it?
Really? You've resolved it? You've only brought it up like twice, and now it's resolved. This is not how you write
ridiculous.
stories.
It's happened so fucking because people will be like, yeah, stories happen faster than real people. It's like, not in seconds.
It's so like you're at your second act low point. This is when, if you want to go like the most conventional way you play it, where they do break up and they don't like each other.
It's like a second act stumble, but you don't fall from it.
Look, it's like Shrek, right? When the team splits apart, the second act low point after.
Yeah, we get a Rufus Wainwright song, and everyone's sad, and what's going to happen next.
Shrek, by the way, a blueprint for good stories.
It is a blueprint for good stories. That's like a normal second act low point of things go badly and they're split up, and then at the climax they come back together. Whereas here it's like, oh, I felt bad. No, I didn't even care about that. I just wanted to see you. Well, I'm glad you're here now. The end of the drama, the end of the conflict, right then and there.
Yeah, and they're like more unified than ever when we have no reason to think that would be the case. It sucks. There's been a lot of appreciation for a particular scene in Avengers 2012. It's been sharing around on Twitter recently. It was kind of strange. I've been sending something to Fringy, being like, I don't know what's going on here exactly. A lot of people have been talking about the scene and
like
thinking
Morpheus,
about it.
They're beginning to remember.
It's maybe it makes sense because it's that is the scene I'm talking about is with all the Avengers break apart gradually, and you have a heavy, extreme amount of reasons and layers for why all of them kind of distrust and hate each other. A lot of it based on their own perception rather than what actually happens, which has benefited from us all getting their own movies so that we know why things happen, but we understand why other people might see it differently. Of course, just stuff like Cap thinking that Iron Man only does everything he does to have money and fame. Hulk not trusting anybody because he's been brought in to be released. Nobody really respects him as a scientist, sort of thing. And then all of them being on edge with Hulk because they don't know when he's going to pop off, including unbuttoning the safety on some of their guns like during the scene, and then Thor because he's affected by the spear, letting out part of his prior experiences, and Thor 1 being just being like, you're all so fucking small, like, or petty. All this stuff is going on. And the camera's like spinning around, we're dealing with all of it, and then, everything falls apart, they try to work together, but they're bound back by the fact that Coulson dies, and Loki's trying to prove that they're all pathetic and a shitty team, and then a lot of them prove what they were saying about, there's the opposite of the criticisms that were given in that scene. There's loads of stuff that's, like, written in there, and it's supposed to be sad and drag you back down, so then they push you all the way back up. They even have it in the third act fight. We have the second act of the fight low point, where all the characters are losing.
Because the highs and the lows are a part of the storytelling equation.
Yeah, they define each other.
Whereas here, the lows are like, it's like a dip in the road. It's not like a valley, of like the mountain, soaring to the mountaintops into the deepest like trench and valley. It's just like, it's like a little bump in the road. And then as soon as you notice it, it's gone. It's done. We're back to everything being totally fine and normal. Everybody's chill with each other. Sure, they had problems, but they resolved them pretty swiftly. And remember, this is like the third scene that actually deals with this as a conflict for these characters, and we're done. I can't believe it. I kind of can't fathom how shallow and thin the character writing is in this film.
It's the checklist. Like, well, we talked about it. Like, we kind of addressed it, so it's done. It's finished. You see this across really all the Disney stuff, whether it's Star Wars and...
Dude, I feel like
it's like the Ahsoka thing.
Like, Multiverse of Madness is absolutely fucking awful in terms of its character work, but its bigger problem was that it had too many threads for, like, the characters in terms of arcs that it thought they were going on.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know, man. Even with that said, it felt like there's a greater quantity of character there. It's perhaps more contradictory, but there's a greater quantity. Here it's just like, it's nothing. It's nothing. It's so little. It's so limited and lacking.
Well, someone said no, they were just paranoid from the staff. It's like, no, that's what's so good about the scene. The staff just accentuates all the thoughts they're having about each other anyway.
Yeah, these are all still true thoughts that they're having.
Like, none of them trust S.H.I.E.L.D. at that point, because they've been revealed to have been using the Tesseract.
Cap doesn't like Tony. He thinks that he's arrogant. He does believe that he wouldn't make the sacrifice play.
And then we know that Tony is jealous of Steve from the relationship he had with his father.
Exactly.
Obviously,
and Bruce is absolutely upset about being there.
yeah, he makes that explicit from the moment we met him, that he's like, you're going to drag me from... He says in the scene, it's like, I was happy, I was peaceful, and you fucking ruined everything.
Yep. It's a great scene.
Meanwhile, you get like the conflict. I was ready for it to be critical of how they executed it. It didn't even happen. I was like,
no, it didn't
okay.
happen. There was no conflict. It's just like, yep, no, we're all good. Yeah, all right. Anyway, moving on. We still got plot to do.
Woohoo!
Like,
I don't think it's just that though. I'd like you have to remember from Disney's perspective and from the writing perspective, they don't. This movie wasn't created purely for entertainment. There's a whole like set of ideas within Disney of how this stuff can be written. So they're kind of handcuffed in the stories they can do. And if you see these people as like literally meant to represent people in real life, there comes a limit on how offensive to the audience you can be. Because the people that like this stuff now see themselves as those characters. So you can't really have a hero become evil because you're essentially calling an entire group of people evil.
What? So it's like kind of like the nature of like you're moderating. You have to moderate the content down. So even though you know there needs to be conflict, it can't be too bad.
Yeah, like Brie Larson said a lot about Captain Marvel, that it was mainly for so young girls could see what they could turn into. And then Miss Marvel is essentially the living personification of that. So she's now the little girls watching Captain Marvel, and now you're actually representing real life people with your characters. So anything you do to those characters, from their perception, you are doing to the audience.
The easy way to get around that is
catering to narcissistic.
Yeah, we already said little girls.